Knowing that Miss Mallard was affected with her heart trouble, with great care was taken to her heart as gently as possible the news of her husband's death. It was her sister Josephine who told her in broken sentences, valiant hints that had relieved and half concealing. Her husband's friend Richard was there too, near her. It was he who had been in the newspaper office when intelligence of the railroad disaster was received, with Brantley Mallard's name leading the list of the killed. He had only taken the name to assure himself of the truth by a second telegram, and has hastened to forestall any less careful, less tender friend in bearing message. She did not hear the story, as many women have heard the same, with the paralyzed inability to accept its significance. She was swept at once with sudden wild abandonment in her sister's arms. When the storm of grief had spent itself, she went away to her room alone. She would not allow her to follow her. There stood facing the window a comfortable, roomy armchair. Into this she sank, pressed down by a physical exhaustion that haunted her body and seemed to reach her soul. She could see in the open square before her house the tops of trees that were all aquiver with new spring life, the delicious breath of rain in the air. The streets below, a peddler was crying his wareness. The note of distant song which some one was singing reached her faintly, and countless sparrows were twittering in their reeds. There was patches of blue sky showing here and there. Throughout the clouds that had met, piled one above the other in the west face her window, she sat with her head down, back upon the cushion of the chair, quite motionless, except when the sob came into her throat. She she took her as a child who has cried itself to sleep continues to sob in its dreams. She was young, with a fair, calm face, whose lines bespoke res- recession and even certain strength. But now there was a dull stare in her eyes, whose gaze was fixed off away yonder on one whose patches in the blue sky. It's not a glance of reflection, but rather it indicates a suspension of intelligence through. Uh, there was something coming to her, and she was waiting for it fearfully. What was it? Did she know it was trouble to Blue and to her name? But she felt it creeping out of the sky, reaching towards her through the sounds, the silence, the color that filled the air. Now her bosom rose and fell tremulously. I don't know. She began to recognize this thing that was approaching her, and she was striving to beat it back with her as well, as powerless as her two white slender hands would have been. When she abandoned herself in a little whisper, a word escaped her silence parted lips. She said it over and over in her breath, free, free, free. The vacant stare and look of terror had fallen from her eyes. They stayed kneeling and bright. Her pulses beat fast. The Kurtz's blood warmed and relaxed very much every body inch. She did not stop to ask if it was where or were not Montrose' joy that told her, a clearing and exalted perspiration enabled her dismiss the suggestion as trivial. She knew that when she wept again, when she saw the kind, tender hands folded in death, the face that had never looked to save with love upon, fixed a grey and dead, but saw beyond a bitter moment long process of years to come that would belong to her absolutely, and she opened her arms and let them into welcome. There would be no one to live from her during the coming years. She would live for herself. There would be no powerful will bearings her in the mind of present with which men and women believe they had a right to impose a private will upon a fellow creature. Intention or cruel intention made that seem no less a crime. As she looked upon to a brief moment of illumination, and yet yes, she loved him. Sometimes, often, she not. What did it matter? What could love? What could love, the unsolved mystery, account for the face of its possession or self association, which she suddenly recognized the strongest impulse for her being, free body and free soul. She kept whispering. Josephine was kneeling before the closed door, her lips to the keyhole, imploring for admission. Please open the door. I beg you to open the door. Will you make yourself ill? What are you doing, Louise? For heaven's sakes, open the door. Go away. I'm not making myself ill. No. She was drinking in every elixir of life through the open window. Her fancy was running riot along those days ahead of her, spring days and summer days, all sorts of days that would have been her own. She breathed with a quick prayer that life might be long. It was only yesterday she sought that sunset, or that life is oh, life is being long. She arose at strength and opened the door to her sister's impertities. With there was a feverish triumph in her eyes, that she carried herself unwittingly like a goddess of victory. She collapsed in her sister's waist, and all together they descended the stairs. Richards stood there waiting for them at the bottom. Someone was opening the front door with a latchkey. It was Bentley Mallard, who entered, a little travel stained implying carrying his gripsack and umbrella. He was been far from the scene of the accident, but did not even know there had been one. He stood amazing at Josephine's personally cry at Richard's quick motion to screen him from the viewing of his wife. But Richards was too late. When the doctors came, they said she died of a heart disease, of joy that kills. All right. So, story of the title, story of an hour. Uh, who was Miss Mallard, her husband, and then apparently he died in the train accident. Once, I want to say, she wanted to be with her husband. Then she got the message from Richards that he died. Then when she found and like she realized that he died, she pretty much like went not really go crazy, but she had a deep sympathy. Like he's gone, he's never gonna come back. What am I gonna do with my life? And that's something she wanted was to continue her life with him. But she's alive and she can't really well she can, but she doesn't want to like kill herself and like to be with him. But she really can't do much. And then she starts thinking and pretty much gets sick and like dies like toward the end. It was kind of surprising. So part I got was she said that free body, free soul. And so she was like, how can I put it? But oh man. The so part I wanna say is but she's alive, so she wants to like die to be with him. Is like as I see it. And like the then part is she pretty much dies when her husband comes back. Text to text. I did text to world and text to self. Text to world's reading in real world. Hmm. Would that be like now? Would it be like in a family situation? That's the only I can think of if it could be. But if it is, I mean, if my grandma's husband's died, and like she probably felt the same way she did in the story. You know, I mean, she wants to be with him, not really care what's going on right now. She'd rather be with him and like anything really, because they've just been together for so long, and then he dies, and all she knows is like to like take care of him and make him food and do his clothes, and once he's gone, it's just it changes your life forever. And I did text to self, reading and connecting to self. Uh, I picked that one because how can I put it? Like, cause seeing it with my grandma, like when my grandpa died, cause she was like, well, actually, it died. He didn't like, nothing fake what happened. But like when he died, my grandma like obviously went not really crazy, but just kind of not really like it struck her like emotionally, physically, like throughout her life. Last couple of years I seen her, and just like it took a toll on her, like I said, emotionally, mentally. And then like it starts getting to her that like there's nobody like there anymore. She doesn't have to rely on anybody, and she doesn't really have a man to come home to every night. And that's all I got for this one.